Hello, guys. News from
Hello and
Belarus.
welcome to the program. I'm Imran Khan. Protests are rare in Belarus. President
Nice
Alexander
suit.
Lukashenko has maintained a tight grip on power since 1994, silencing nearly all forms of dissent. But his controversial re-election last Sunday has triggered a week of unprecedented demonstrations and a tough response from police. The opposition and protesters accuse Lukashenko of rigging the vote. Many demonstrators say they were beaten and tortured during the police crackdown. Opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, who escaped to Lithuania after losing the election, is calling for more peaceful rallies. Chants for
More
Lukashenko to
peaceful.
leave echoed around a square in
Yeah,
Minsk, where people held a memorial for a
more
protester who was
peaceful.
killed. We'll bring in our guests in a moment, but first, this report
I
from
agree
Step Vassem
50-50.
in the Belarusian capital.
What started as a memorial for a 34-year-old car mechanic, Alexander Taraikovsky, who was killed here at this square earlier in the week during protest, has now led to one of the largest mass rallies that we've seen in Belarus in the last week. Thousands, probably tens of thousands of people have gathered here in the last couple of hours, not only to pay respect to the victim. There have been people carrying flowers. There's a large mountain of flowers here nearby. People were crying. It was very emotional. But also their anger is coming out. They are
Well,
calling police
communist
criminals. They're
countries.
asking for Lukashenko to resign immediately. And they say
That's
Svetlana
what happens.
Tikhanovskaya is our president. Where this is all going to lead to, nobody knows. In the meantime, Lukashenko has been asking help from President Putin because he
Asking help
can't
from
control the
President
situation
Putin.
anymore. It's basically a
Help me,
turning point
Putin.
now for the president. And
Help
even
me.
the threat of asking
A
help
much
from
more
neighboring
bigger.
Russia is not deterring people here anymore. They are now used to the threats of the president, and they
Help me,
have been
Putin.
suffering beatings, tortures,
Vladimir.
all kinds of intimidation in the last week.
Help
And
me.
that old tactic that's been used by Lukashenko for more than 2 decades is not helping any longer. They are determined to stay until new elections are going to be called and the president is going to step down.
He will
Alexander
step down,
Lukashenko
I
insists he's
think.
not stepping down. He's spoken
Sorry?
to the Russian President Vladimir
Interruption?
Putin, warning the protests are not just a threat to Belarus. The European Union is working on sanctions against officials, it says,
The European Union is working on nothing like always.
Neighbouring Poland is considering humanitarian visas for Belarusians, and speaking to Al Jazeera, the foreign minister of another neighbour, Lithuania, urged Lukashenko to listen to the people.
What we are demanding very simple things: to release
Who
those
are you?
detained, also to stop violence and to start, sounds quite weird, but to start the dialogue with own people, own citizens.
Like
They need
politician,
not much.
you
By the way,
don't
they
look
were not aggressive.
really
They
well.
were not smashing windows or burning cars. But the force used against them was really
My English is
extraordinary.
broken,
And
but
that
yours
would
is
remain
much
some
more
traces in the
worse.
future. That's definitely very difficult. So we have no intention whatsoever,
I don't think you have a clue what
or
you're
right to
saying.
intervene into the domestic affairs of that country. But what we are talking here has no borders and really deserves our attention.
Let's bring in our panel. Joining us from Minsk, Yaroslav Romanchuk, president of the Mises Scientific Research Center think tank. From Kiev, Peter Zalmayev, executive director at the Eurasia Democracy Initiative. And in London, Domitilla Sagramosa, lecturer in security and development at
looks
King's
smart.
College London. A welcome to you all. I'd like to
Oh,
begin in
from
Minsk
London.
with you, Yaroslav.
Yeah, she's
Are
smart.
we right now a week into the beginning of the end of the president?
We are in the beginning of the peaceful revolution for love, dignity, democracy, and freedom. That's unprecedented when not only political activists, civil activists, but hundreds of thousands of workers all around the country join forces to, with one just
I would
think
like to say from
Lukashenko
movie
must go.
Lucy,
We are sick and tired of him.
from the
The brutality,
revolution to
atrocity, and
evolution.
tortures that Belarusian regime exposed and experienced
Oh,
in
jeez.
the last 5 days are unprecedented. With this kind of reputation
Such
and
a power
deeds,
of
there
human
is no moral
beings.
political grounds to stay for Lukashenko in power. So yes, I think that this is the beginning of the end.
Let me bring in Peter Zamir from Kiev here. I mean, he is being backed by Putin, somewhat reluctantly, some would
Backed
say.
by
But
Putin.
there does seem to be a conversation between Lukashenko and the Russian president, and they seem to be talking.
Well, let me just go back
Maybe
on what you asked
Putin is
our
planning to live
Belarus-based
maybe
colleague who said
about
it's the beginning
200
of the
years
end. I
or
would
so.
probably just go with Churchill, who is reported to have said, this may not be the beginning of the
Yeah,
end, but maybe
maybe
the
he
end
is
of the
immortal.
beginning. And
Yeah,
this is
it could
precisely
be.
why we're
I'm
seeing
sorry,
these sorts
people.
of this sort of consultation that you just asked me between the two presidents. Lukashenko went to Putin. There's no love lost between these two men, so you understand. They have disliked each other forever. They're completely different in their mentality. Putin distrusts Lukashenko, does not like him, and has supported him all these years quite reluctantly as the lesser of all the evils. That calculation may be changing in Vladimir Putin's mind, depending on what is happening in the streets. It is being reported that Lukashenko has asked Putin to step in militarily. He may be asking for Russian tanks on the streets of Minsk because and other Belarusian cities because he simply is smelling serious trouble. The main thing we're seeing right now is the nationwide strike that has reportedly is covering about 80% of all the industry of Belarus, and the heavy industry has been traditionally Lukashenko's bastion of support. He's
All
risked losing it.
those
He's already lost it,
Belarus and
and he
Russian
went to Putin. Now, Putin's
countries,
calculation is
well,
very complicated.
politicians in
He
there
does
is
not
supported
want to be
by
backing
old
a
people
very unpopular
because young
president.
people is
He's
going to
probably
the
not
west,
contemplating
east,
introducing
or
troops.
somewhere else out of there.
Rather, he would support
And
someone
who
who
left?
would replace
Well,
Lukashenko.
lived
He has
like
already
this.
done that 2 years ago in the revolution of Armenia. And for now, the street, the anti-Lukashenko street, is not necessarily anti-Russia. And Putin is very careful to maintain that balance and not to turn the opposition against the Kremlin.
But Yaroslav Romanchuk, is there a potential for Russian tanks to be on the streets of
Those
Minsk?
politicians
Is there any
just
way that you can see that
knows
happening?
how to
Our
talk.
guest in Kiev says it's an option, but it might not
I
happen.
don't like politicians. I don't
Well,
know.
in December
Oh, you look smart.
2019, Putin offered Lukashenko a deal that would have been quite acceptable for Putin. That would have been very, very good for the Kremlin because that would mean staying for Putin in power for a long time within the Union state, a new political and geopolitical entity. Lukashenko vehemently refused to accept this offer, saying that no, Belarus will stay independent no matter what. I do not see any reason why Lukashenko should change his mind right now. We have many more tanks right now, many tanks to defend ourselves. And Lukashenko, if he accepted this proposal, he would be the first loser. So I think in the all factors, he'd rather support, repress his own people, start to negotiate with workers, even start negotiate with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, who, from our position perspective, won the election landslide. But that would be
It doesn't matter
within
who is a
our
porter
Belarusian
here.
national
People
authority,
don't
because no
like
matter what, if Belarusian street society,
regime.
the
Just
message is
don't,
not
they don't.
pro-Europe or against
And the
Russia.
masses
That's
is
against
way
Lukashenko.
too big.
And if Russia
That's
steps
it.
in, Russia would definitely not get
My
welcoming
prediction is
remarks and support from the
Lukashenko is going
population. So that
down.
would be another hot spot on the map.
Well,
And
it's just my
taking
opinion,
account the
of
point that
course.
about 60% of Russians support Lukashenko, then I do not think that that would mean any meaningful advantage to Putin. That we know all he targets Ukraine first. And as long as Ukraine is independent and developing and
Let's
is not
skip it.
what Russia would like is, in a way, to have a leadership of Lukashenko that is quite weakened, so that in some way it can push forward with further integration. I think that is clear, as was also mentioned by the previous speakers, that Russia definitely intends to strengthen this sort of union state, and probably sees around a weakened Lukashenko an opportunity, but at the same time needs to be very careful not to sort of alienate the entire population of Belarus.
Well, let's put that to Yaroslav Romanchuk. Would you accept a weakened Lukashenko?
Lukashenko is a cunning, sophisticated, experienced politician. He's been fooling Putin for 20 years. Doesn't have any geopolitical orientation. She's got some good advisors. And I think that the overwhelming support she got is just that we don't want to have Lukashenko as the first and only president. And if we have it, we'll try to pursue the policy of neutrality and to have good relations with all our neighbors, including European Union. Because let me remind you that in the last 4 years, Lukashenko has been trying to lure the West with this so-called Minsk dialogue supported by Germany, and it failed, as we now see.
I just want to thank all our guests, Yaroslav Romanchuk, Peter Zalmayev, and Domitila Sagramosa. And thank you too for watching.
Thank
you
you
can see the program
too.
again anytime by
You have a
visiting our
nice
website,
suit.
aljazeera.com.
Thank you.
And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com.